Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Tuesday, May 11th. I'm Gary Stevens. It is the second Tuesday of the month, which means we get our monthly update of what's going on at the Holland Museum. And to do that for us, we have the executive director of the Holland Museum, Ricki Levine, joining us via the Zoom connection. Ricki, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary. Nice to see you.
Glad you are with us. And if you have a question about the museum, Ricki will be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. I know it might be a little bit early to ask you this question, but I'll still ask you this question. How was attendance at the museum over the past week during Tulip Time?
It was phenomenal. We had people coming out of the woodwork, and it was so great to see people all around town, as well as the museum. But we really had great attendance at the museum. We opened up the houses for private tours, so we did them by appointment only, and we had all of our tours filled up. We also participated in a marketplace at the Civic Center. So it was great seeing people. It was great engaging with people and sharing a little bit about the museum with them.
Yes, indeed. Granted, there was no parades, no Dutch dancing, but yet, let's just say it wasn't equal to the amount of people that would normally have come prior to 2020, but it was pretty close. I'll be honest with you.
It was, and you know, the museum saw an uptick in some of our days in numbers for people versus 2019 at the museum. Really, we had great attendance, particularly on the weekends, which is what we were hoping for, and we got what we were hoping for.
How much of it, and I don't want to sound like a naive question there, Ricki Levine, how much recruitment is done with the Tulip Time for people who say, hey, you know what? I like this place. I want to become a member. Does it really lead to maybe some membership? Wouldn't say spikes, but at least some increase in memberships because people maybe discover the museum for the first time and then become a member.
You know, during Tulip Time, what we're mostly seeing are people from out of town. So I don't see that translating very much into memberships because people feel like they're coming for Tulip Time. They may come back again, but they have no definite plans. You know, we do get donations of people that come in. In fact, I was sitting there over the weekend and somebody put a very nice donation in our cash box. So people realize there's a value to us, but to become a member, not necessarily something that is in their bandwidth at the time.
Okay, so let me ask you a simple question. What's the biggest thing that spurs people to become members of the museum? What really drives them? What event or what time of year drives them to become members?
You know, that's a really interesting question, Gary, and I'm not sure I have the answer for that. I think it's very different for different people. You know, we have family membership that's very excited about our Spark Lab space, but because that's been closed for the last 15 months, we're not seeing an uptick in family membership. What we are seeing memberships being consistent are people that have been members for a long time that feel that there's a value to the museum and the community and really want to support us in good times and in bad. And so that's one of their ways of doing that. And then there's the people that love to travel and they take our premium membership on because that allows them to go to North American Reciprocal Museums. It's a NARM program that we're a part of. And so they can go, again, when traveling is a little bit easier, but people are beginning to do that all over North America with their membership from the Holland Museum, and allows them access to all of those participating museums as well with no admission fee. So it varies depending on what your interests are, what your focus is, and how you want to support the museum.
616-395-1450. If you have a question for Ricki Levine of the Holland Museum, she'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450. Let me ask about Smart Lab. Do you see perhaps a light at the end of the tunnel for getting Smart Lab back up and running because it's been down since last March?
We do. There's more work that we've been doing with the Smithsonian, and that's one of their exhibits. They're seeing this in all of the exhibits all over the country that have Spark Lab, that we've all been closed down to the general public. But there are some that are beginning to open up a little bit, sort of like what we did with the houses, by appointment only. So we have time to disinfect after everyone touches, and that's the problem with it. It's such a hands-on kind of exhibit. So we want to make sure things are kept clean, that the people that are in the space at one time are all part of the same group or same class or same camp group or family group. So we are looking at the ways that we are going to possibly start opening up later in the next couple of months.
Let's hope it does, because it's a fun activity, especially if we get moving along with some outdoor activities. I know Spark Lab was very much a part of some of the Collin Park activities in the summer. You bring a little taste of the Spark Lab and kids go, ah! lots of fun as well.
Kids and families, kids and parents too. The parents really enjoy them as well. Yeah, and we hope to be able to do more and more of that. With different activities. We're part of Meet Up and Eat Up, which is the summer lunch program. And we will be bringing activities to those locations, but they may be activities that, like last summer, the families take home with them, that they don't do it communally as a group. So we're exploring, and we're trying to stay on top of all of the newest information, the best information, to keep people safe, but also to keep people engaged.
Now, Ricki Levine, I always mention this when I bring up the topic of that free second Monday of the month. And it's like, we talk on the second Tuesday of the month. That follows the second Monday. So people, you have to wait a month. When we do this next on the 8th of June, it's going to be one of those times where we'll be previewing a free second Monday of the month, but certainly the next one's be coming up on the 14th. So it's going to be a chance for people who maybe have never been to the museum. It's good, as they say, a lost leader in the industry. You get them free. You don't get the funds, but you might hook them on and make them become members.
Well, we do it for that reason, obviously, but we also do that because we know that accessibility is important, and not everybody can afford to become a member. Not everybody can afford to pay admittance for a family. So we want to make sure that we have some accessibility for everyone at least once a month. Ideally, we would do this more often, but funding is something that, admissions help us keep our doors open. So until we get a great big sponsor that wants to do every Monday of the month or every day of the week, we're still going to have to charge for people to come in other days of the week. But we do want to make sure that there's at least one opportunity for people to come in for free.
And that, of course, is Monday. The next one will be on June 14th, 4 to 7 p.m., the second Monday of the month. It is open. Of course, the museum is open Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a special Monday time when I assume that's still going to be in place for those who wish not to wear the mask. You can come in on Monday and don't have to wear the mask.
Yeah, and that's if you have a medical reason to not wear a mask. It's not just because you don't feel like you should wear a mask. So we ask people to honor and respect that. We are following CDC guidelines. We're following the state rules. If those lift up, if they become more relaxed, we'd be more than happy to do the same. But we're really trying to keep everyone safe. And that also includes the number of people that can be in the museum at one time. So we have been restricted now for several months. It's changed a couple of times over the last 15 months, and we follow those guidelines. And even during Tulip Time, when we had great attendance, it really worked out where people did not have to wait to come in. It just flowed. So we just ask people to respect us. We want to stay open. We want to stay in business. We don't want to have any issues that we're not following the correct protocol that have been outlined by the state.
Now, Ricki, I'm going to ask you a business question, obviously. We talked a little bit about Smart Lab, and hopefully the light is at the end of the...
Spark.
Smart. I'd say smart. I'm going
smart,
to get. I will get a dum dum, and I'll eat my dum dum for being a dum dum with that. But the Spark Lab, we saw at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel on that. What about revenues? Obviously, the museum, like a lot of things, got a revenue hit. Because not being open, not being accessible. You're also seeing light at the end of the tunnel on that as well, because as more people get in, the coffers become better. And of course, like anything else, you can't run something unless you have capital, and you need that capital.
That's true. And as a nonprofit, one of the things that we rely on heavily are individual donations and sponsorships and grants. Sponsorships and grants have been remaining somewhat steady. Some of the sponsorships were slowed up a little bit because we weren't doing things, so there was nothing to sponsor. One of the biggest things we were hit with, Gary, was the fact that we couldn't do our fundraisers. And we've had our trivia night going for the last number of years, which has been a big success, and it's been a lot of fun for the community to participate in. That's been closed down now for 2 years because it occurs in the spring. We also lost our brand new fundraiser that we started in the winter of 2020, which was our Museum on Tap fundraiser, which also did really well in its inaugural year. And we had hoped to do it this past winter, couldn't do it. So those are two big hits for us, as well as so many other nonprofits in terms of fundraisers. And, you really do get a nice amount of revenue that comes in from a successful fundraiser, and we've lost 3 of them to date. So the good news, the light at the end of the tunnel, as you put it, is we are now doing a virtual fundraiser. We're doing our first of what we expect to be several, and it's called Preserving Our Stories, and that's the theme, and it ties in so beautifully with our mission to tell the stories of Holland, Michigan, and the people who live here and make it what it is. And we are targeting conversations to talk about with businesses and multi-generational businesses. And the first one is the Holland Peanut Store, which is a 5th generation run business now here in Holland. And I think everybody who lives here has been in at least several times for themselves or to get gifts for others. It is such an iconic place. But people come from far and wide to come to the Holland Peanut Store as well. So our first virtual fundraiser, which will be mostly virtual, but we will have a live component, is May 20th. And what we have done is we have sat and we've interviewed the 3 generations of the Fabiano family that are still part of the business and got their story down on video, their story of their history, their story of their perseverance, the things that have happened in their lives, both personally and professionally, that have, given them pause or given them some adversity, and how they've been able to maintain the wonderful business they have and the wonderful family that they are and tell their story. So we've narrowed down almost 3 hours of this wonderful story that has become part of our collection. So we have that history as part of our archives. But we've narrowed it down to about 20 minutes of them telling their story. We talk about the museum and the education initiatives that this fundraiser helps to support. And when I talk about education initiatives, I'm talking about tours and programs and exhibits. All of that fits under the education umbrella because that's what museums do. We educate. And the family tells a story, and the beauty of it is we have these fabulous goodie bags that I'm afraid are sold out, but we still have an opportunity to participate that have goodies from the peanut store. But then you also have an opportunity to do a Q&A with some of the family members live. It's going to be hosted by Nathan Box, the mayor of City of Holland, and you will see on video some other supporters of the museum and why they support us and the work that we're doing. So as I said, the goodie bags have been sold out, Gary, but you can still participate because if you want to buy a ticket and you get a Zoom link and you come to the program, you also will get a $25 gift certificate to the peanut store. So you might not get the goodie bag, but you certainly can get goodies and you can pick and choose the ones you want. So it's a really, really wonderful opportunity to support us, to hear the Fabiano story, the peanut store story, and to have a good time for a good cause.
And the thing is, while the event is on May 20, there is some urgency to be a part of it. Tell us, because I have a funny feeling you snooze, you lose with this particular fundraiser.
Yeah, well, we only have so much capacity in terms of the Zoom link. So there's that. And we also want to get you the link to the Zoom, and we also want to get you that gift certificate ahead of time. So you really need to sign up by the 15th in order to participate.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was the end of the week, and because my note says tomorrow. I was like, wait a minute, the 12th?
You know what, Gary? No, you're right. It is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. I was thinking of another date that we have. So yes, you need to sign up very soon.
And we'll put a link, by the way, to hollandmuseum.org. We normally do when we have the podcast of our conversations with Ricki Levine and other members of the museum staff. We put it as a link in the description of the podcast on our webpage at WHTC.com, and you can get more information on that. But again, the fundraiser, the virtual fundraiser involving the Holland Peanut Store, to register for the event, it's by tomorrow, by the end of the business day tomorrow.
And you can just go to our website too. If you can't wait for the Zoom link, just go to hollandmuseum.org and you will find information about how to sign up.
Ricki, we touched upon this in our last chat a month or so ago. It was just getting underway. Matthias Alton, once again, spotlighted by the Holland Museum. Matthias Alton, Beyond the Oil Paintings. It's an exhibit that's on display right now. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, so this is very different than the exhibit that we had last year, which was about Matthias Alton's time in the Netherlands and the paintings that we had recently received as a gift from his granddaughter, to explore the oil paintings of his time in the Netherlands. Matthias Alton was known and is known very much for his oil paintings, but he did work in other mediums. And the process of an artist is also very often not going directly to oil on canvas. There are sketches and watercolors that are part of the exploration of a lot of artists. And that was part of Matthias Alton's work process. And so we're very fortunate. This is the 150th anniversary of his birth. And there's been a lot of traveling exhibits all over the state celebrating that with his oil paintings. And we're very fortunate to have his sketches, some of his sketches, and a couple of his watercolors as part of this exhibit. They're on loan from Grand Valley State University, and really explore his process, also get a sense of his timeline. He was so prolific. He was a German immigrant, came here, made Grand Rapids area his home, lived here even though he traveled all over the country and all over the world. And those travels influenced his art as well. Fascinating man, fascinating story, and one of our local celebrities that we wanted to celebrate. So the exhibit is open now and it runs through July 25th. We have a couple of programs, including one Thursday night that I do want to mention, because that you have to register by tomorrow for.
Please do so there, Ricki.
Yeah, so it's called The Artistic Practice Exploring Matthias Alton's Medium of Choice. And it's being done by Joel Zwart, who's the curator of exhibitions at Grand Valley State University. And he really, really knows Matthias Alton, knows his process, knows the man. The Grand Valley State University is one of the largest holders of Matthias Alton works. So they have explored him extensively. And he's going to be talking about the works that Alton has done, primarily, like I said, oil paintings, but talk about his watercolors, his pastels, his murals, his pen and ink, his charcoal drawings, and how his work was influenced by the land, by landscapes, very much rural Michigan landscapes, but all over the country and the world, as I said before. So he's going to talk about his career. That's on Thursday night, but you must register by the 12th, which is tomorrow. And that is free. We'd love for you to join us. Joel has done programs in the past for us, and he's quite knowledgeable and accessible, and I think you'll learn a lot.
Now, the thing is, yes, it is free, but let's put it this way, donations cheerfully accepted in that regard.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've been doing these programs since we've been in lockdown or semi-lockdown virtually now for almost the full 15 months. We've been doing them for free. We also keep them on our website for the most part, so you can access them at a later date. But we do encourage donations. If you like what you see and you enjoy what you're getting from the museum and you have the capacity to give, please consider doing so.
Couple more things, and then we'll button up our conversation with Ricki Levine. Let's circle back to when we began our discussion this morning about the Tulip Time and festival and the increased attendance and the availability of the Capon House and the Settlers House to be open via appointment. Is that going to continue this summer, or was this just a one-off because of the Tulip Time Festival and it's going to stay closed until we have better health protocols?
No, we're actually planning on opening it. I don't have a lot of the specifics yet. Tulip Time was a great trial for us to figure out how to make it work and how to make it both safe and something that people want to participate in and get a sense of how many people wanted to participate in it. So we plan on doing that this summer, and it probably will be similar, by appointment only and with your own group coming in versus multiple people from different groups. A lot of people expressed how appreciative they were that we did not commingle a lot of groups. Gary, I don't know if you've been in the houses recently, but they're small. It's a house, so there are narrow hallways, and really to get a lot of people from different groups, you can't do it safe, socially distant. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. But yeah, stay tuned. We will be sure to share that with your listeners when we're opening up to the public again.
And finally, this is something I like to bring up with you, and whenever we do have a chat with the museum, how people can get involved. We want to give the opportunity to let people know how they can get involved with their Holland Museum.
Well, certainly we talked about memberships, and that's always a great way to support us and get involved, but we're always looking for volunteers. And certainly, again, during this last year, we know people had to drop off in terms of the participation. People are coming back as volunteers, as docents, as group tour coordinators, people that work in administration. If you like history, if you want to dive into our collections, we always are looking for people that want to do that with us. So the garden club that we work with, the Holland Garden Club, they're always looking for people to help do the landscaping at the Capon House. So we're really, if whatever your interest is, if you want to volunteer, I bet you we have a place for you. And all you need to do is contact us. And there is information on our website about the type of volunteer roles that we have available as well. So please consider that. Sometimes people can't give financially, but if you can give of your time, that's as much of a treasure for us as anything.
The Holland Museum, like a lot of other institutions around our area, waking from the COVID-19 induced slumber over the last 15 months. And Ricki Levine, the executive director of the Holland Museum, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town to tell us what's going on at the museum. Again, we'll put a link to hollandmuseum.org in the description of the podcast when we upload it within the next 10 minutes or so on our page of WHTC.com. And Ricki, wish you and everybody at the museum well, and we look forward to chatting with you again, hopefully next month, but sometime down the road this year.
Thanks, Gary. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Ricki Levine on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.